Okay, so we've been talking about this concept of things multiplying in the scriptures, but now we want to really help you to understand maybe what we're doing compared to what we should be doing. What we could be doing is probably a better word. I think one of the things that I have delighted in the most in ministry throughout my life is just actually when we get to see multiplication happen. So there's a joy that's there. There's a harvest and a passing on of the gospel when you see generational work take place that just can't be compared to any other kind of ministry.
You speak about joy, huh?
Absolutely.
This is you. How about the joy of the Lord?
Absolutely.
That pleases God's heart.
Absolutely.
That's the joy, not just for the heaven rejoices of one sinner.
That's right.
Imagine how God rejoices when you see his kingdom
Absolutely.
is just expanding, through his heart in the life of his followers.
Absolutely. And it's available to all of us. There's not one Christ follower that can't experience multiplication happen. There's not any of this that is reserved for the theologically trained, pastors, apostles. It's not like that. Paul was instructing Timothy to faithful men, to others also.
Yeah.
We're all in this boat together, and we can all see multiplication take place. And it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. أحبائنا في هذه الفقرة الخامسة من هذا التدريب حتى نتعلم عن مبدأ التضاعف والتكاثر كما شفنا في الشواهد الكتابية اللي مضت السابقة. حابين نوجه الأنظار في هذه اللحظات حتى نفهم بشكل صحيح ومبادئ الملكوت وامتداد الملكوت والتكاثر للتلاميذ إنه هي رغبة الله، قلب الله اللي إحنا لازم نسلك فيها. مش إنه بس هي مجرد إنه فرح واحد، ولكن هي فرح الرب، فرح قلب الرب من خلال عمله في حياة التلاميذ حتى ملكوته يمتد في هذه الأرض.
So the screen that we have here in English says this: based on these texts, is our culture really a kingdom culture? So is the Western culture of church really a kingdom culture? Is it really a kingdom culture, God's kingdom culture? And I think in the West, the statement says this, that most church leaders are mainly concerned with growing the church. Ronnie, it sounds like you were saying that there's more of a concept of just maintaining the church, maybe not even growing the church. What do you think?
Well, as minorities, it's maintaining, maintaining for the sake of the status that you have as a church or as a ministry as well. But that have that mindset of growing, even sometimes you push it on with your own strength just to add more people, but not with the mindset of multiplication and the healthy growth in the church life.
So the concept is this, that growing the church or really just maintaining is something God never told us to do. But he did tell us to make disciples. He did tell us to participate with him in this ministry. He prayed that the kingdom would come, that his will would be done. We're the ambassadors of that. He did command us to make disciples. God grows the church as we are obedient to co-labor with him in expanding his kingdom.
أحبائنا، بعد ما شفنا من خلال هذه الشواهد الكتابية لازم ناخذ هذا التفكير بمجتمعنا الشرقي حتى بحياة الكنيسة بحد ذاتها. هل ثقافتنا نحن كمجتمع شرقي هي ثقافة مسيحية بحسب ثقافة ومبادئ الملكوت؟ هل نحن كتلاميذ المسيح أو حتى كخدام كقادة كنائس إحنا معنيين وشغلنا الشاغل هو نمو الكنيسة وزيادة الأعداد في الكنيسة، أو هي مأمورية بسيطة ولكن بغاية الأهمية أن نذهب ونتلمذ جميع الأمم، والرب هو اللي بيجيب النمو، هو اللي بيجيب التضاعف في الكنيسة إذا أطعناه واشتركنا وعملنا معه بحسب هذا الفكر ثقافة الملكوت.
So I don't know how this translates, but in English, any grade school child would know, okay, we're adding or we're multiplying. And that's the question that we want to ask you today. In your ministry, whether you are a part of a ministry, a part of a church congregation, or a leader in something of this nature, is what you're doing addition or is it multiplication?
السؤال الأساسي من خلال هاي الحلقة في هاي التدريب وهو لكل قائد، لكل خادم، لكل راعي كنيسة أو لكل تلميذ حتى نفكر فكر صحيح وسليم لتضاعف. هو هل احنا نعمل على اساس زياده او تضاعف. طبعا هو مش راح يكون درس رياضيات، ولكن راح ناخذ مبادئ اساسيه حتى نشوف. السؤال المهم هو هل هي زياده او تضاعف.
In the example of addition, we tend to send individuals out, hoping that they will go and talk to someone and then bring them back into the church. In multiplication, we are sending people out, but we're sending them to meet with many people, with groups of people. We're going to come to a very important word later, the word oikos in the Greek. But they're going to meet with others. They're going to find where groups of people are located and minister to them, gathering them the way that Jesus and the apostles did. And we're going to teach others to do the same. And so we begin to see a multiplying work. And so just by this illustration, we see very little return, very little multiplication with this mindset compared to this.
طبعا من خلال المثال والتشبيه اللي راح نشوفه هنا بنطلع على منطق الزيادة. بنشوف انه احنا عمليا بناخذ اشخاص او تلاميذ وبنرسلهم للمجتمع حوالينا حتى يجيبوا اشخاص ويجيبوهم يرجعوهم على الكنيسة على الاجتماع. اما بمنطلق التكاثر عمليا احنا بنرسل اشخاص اللي بيروحوا على مجموعات معينة، بيقضوا معهم وقت، بعلموهم، بتلمذوهم. حتى هدول الاشخاص راح نتعلم اكثر كمان على منطلق الاويكاس اللي هي مجموعه منزليه، حتى يتضاعفوا ويتكاثروا ويأثروا بحد ذاتهم على مجموعات اخرى.
So let's look at another illustration of addition. In the addition model, which we are typically finding ourselves in really worldwide today, we are sending, as we said a minute ago, sending people out, hoping to bring people back in order to grow the church so that the church gets bigger, or even just as we lose people, the church maintains. Meanwhile, all these people out in the community really never are impacted by the gospel.
حتى نشوف أكثر تشبيه أوضح عن الزيادة كيف الكنيسة عم تنمو. طبعا طرقنا عليه بالتشبيه الأول، إنه الأشخاص اللي بينطلقوا للمجتمع عمليا هم بيأثروا، ولكن بيجيبوا الأشخاص حتى يجوا للخلية هاي الذرة هاي اللي هي الكنيسة حتى تزيد، ولكن تزيد بمنطلق قليل. وبيضل حوالي هذا المجتمع في أشخاص كثيرين لسه ما وصلتهم بشارة الإنجيل.
So the addition model is not kingdom focused and it's not community focused. It's church focused.
نموذج ومنطلق الزيادة ما هو مفهوم ومبدأ الملكوت، وما هو بركز على الكنيسة وما بركز على بشارة الإنجيل توصل بشكل صحيح.
Those of you who are in church leadership, you know that the scriptures say that your role is to equip the saints for works of service. And many times we confine those works of service to just what happens in the church rather than equipping them for what happens in the community.
من خلال هذا النموذج بنتكلم للرعاة والقادة انه بشكل واضح كلمة الله بتعلمنا انه كل ما هو اودعنا اياه الرب لازم نعلمه حتى اشخاص يطلعوا ويأثروا على المجتمع. ولكن احنا هل نهدف ومن نقصد من خلال التدريب هذا حتى نأثر لتكاثر التلاميذ في المجتمع.
In an opposite view, let's look at another example. And I know this is very busy to the eyes, but we want you to be overwhelmed by this possibility of when people are focused on multiplication, now there's no walls. Now there's no boundaries. Now it's how long will it take for our country to know Jesus? Well, we keep multiplying until that happens. So we're trying to grow the kingdom in the community, knowing God will take care of the church.
في النموذج السابق تكلمنا انه تركيز هذا المنطلق المبدأ الزيادة بركز على نمو الكنيسة ومحدود على نمو الكنيسة، مش على ملكوت الله وتأثيره ونموه وزيادته وتضاعفه في المجتمع. فعمليا ما بدنا اياكم تنبهروا بالتشبيه هذا، ولكن بدنا اياكم عن قصد تفهموا منطلق التضاعف، التكاثر، اللي هو كم احنا عم نأثر حتى ملكوت الله ينتشر، ملكوت الله يمتد في مجتمعنا وما يكون محدود في إطار 4 جدران الكنيسة فقط.
Ronnie, here in the United States, I know that we have a very different view of how big churches are, a very different experience in how big churches are. Here in the States, I've heard people say, we don't want to get larger than 200 people, you know, and they are exclusive and it becomes a club. That's a big problem here in the United States. What about the East?
It is. You know, everything is big in Texas, for example. As I mentioned in the previous trainings, that probably the largest, what I know, for example, in the Holy Land, the largest church that we have is like about 100, 120 church. That's 120 members, and that's considered the mega church. But the focus itself for us as a community, again, as a community, is the impact on the neighborhoods, on the society surrounding us. If it's small, only 30 members, or if it's 100 members. We're focusing, that's right, to maintain the number, but as much as possible, even while we're maintaining, how much we're impacting the community with our small numbers.
In the multiplication that we see in the scriptures, again, this is not a man-made model, that we're looking at what the scriptures show us. It never stops spreading. I think that's so important as an aspect to this, that there's no more boundaries, no more walls to be considerate of. So churches are planting churches all the time.
من خلال مبدأ التكاثر التضاعف عم نشوف انه بهذا المبدأ والمنطلق بحسب حتى كلمة الله انه ما في حدود، ما في اشي بحد قوة كلام الله وانجيل المسيح حتى يوصل وملكوت الله ينتشر في مجتمعنا. فبنشوف انه ما في حدا بيقدر يوقفه من انه ينتشر، وما في حدود انه يوصل لكل العالم، مش بس مجتمعنا واحنا موجودين.
Now, we want to give kind of a fun example of what addition looks like compared to multiplication. We want to use money to do that. Last time I checked, everyone likes money. And we're using American dollars in the picture, but we'll of course use relevant terms for you. But the question is this: which would you rather be paid for? $100,000 a day for 1 month, or be paid by daily doubling 1 cent or a penny's value?
طبعا حتى نفهم أكثر رح نعمل شوي هيك بطريقة مرحة تشبيه بسيط ممكن يكون الأغلب يتجاوب يتفاعل معنا. ممكن أنتم شايفين هنا في الشريحة هذه على الدولار، ولكن خلينا نتكلم ممكن الشيكل أو الدينار أو الدرهم وين أنت عايش. الفكر هو هل إحنا بنركز على الزيادة أو التضاعف؟ شو بتفضل يندفع لك في الشهر؟ 100,000 دينار أو تتضاعف كل يوم مقدار شيكل واحد، وهذا الشيكل يتضاعف قيمته يوميا.
Now very quickly, as you first look at this, you see on day one, you have 100,000 and only 1 cent. Halfway through the month, it looks like you're not getting anywhere.
مثلا بنشوف بالشهر الأول أنت عم تأخذ 100,000 بالشهر، والقيمة هي تقريبا عشر من الشاكل، وبنشوف النتيجة هي تقريبا 327، ولكن في النهاية ما في نتيجة كبيرة.
Again, multiplying, adding.
طبعا بنشوف الزيادة هون وهون التضاعف.
But let's look at the end of the month. At the end of the month, look at how much is there. 10 million compared to 3 million.
في نهاية الشهر بنشوف النتيجة 10 ملايين، ومن ناحية التضاعف بنشوف زيادة 3 ملايين.
So what we see by this graph is that it can feel like you're getting nowhere with discipleship multiplication, but hang in there, because you will begin to see exponential growth as you get further into it.
ممكن راح شوي يكون محبط أو تكتئب في أول الطريق إنه تشوف هذا المسار بهذا المبدأ شوي بطيء وما في أي نتيجة، ولكن في نهاية المطاف راح نشوف والثمن والنتيجة والثمر لهذا المبدأ.
So here's the point we want to make with this, that the longer that discipleship multiplication is applied, the more exponentially effective it becomes towards reaching our world and making disciples.
فبنهاية المطاف من خلال هذا التشبيه اللي بنتأمل يكون واضح وتوضح من خلال الشرائح اللي رح نعطيكم إياها، إنه من خلال تقضيتنا في هذا المبدأ تضاعف التلاميذ وتكاثر التلاميذ عمليا في نهاية المطاف احنا بنكون اكثر تأثير مش بس على مجتمعنا ولكن على العالم بهذا المفهوم.
The scriptures are clear that we should just not give up, Ronnie. I think that's what's so powerful about this is we saw earlier in the teachings that the requirement in Matthew 25 and in the life of Jesus was spending time with people. And that's really what this boils down to is we just stop spending the time necessary to really see multiplication happen.
It tends to, that's the perspective itself, is the way if we have the right sight, because, and the way how we're functioning, and the way how we're acting by faith, and because we tend to be discouraged, because there's no numbers, there's no stats, there's no charts.
That's right.
I can't bring more people and add on, and there's still some, seats and pews are kind of empty. Like, what I'm gonna do? I have people to report. If you're a pastor, for example, and you're living because of people are supporting you or a ministry, I gotta submit reports. I gotta show them charts and surveys and like, look, this is growing. And that comes to the point of like, I'm frustrated. Nothing is moving. Nothing is going on at the end of the year. And that's very discouraging. And it's like in the thought itself in the Middle East, what should I do? Shut down the church, shut down the ministry? Should I give up? That's it? Nothing is moving? And that's really sad.
It is. It is.
في نهاية هذه الحلقة ما بدنا تشعروا إنه عم نحاول نحبطكم، ولكن عم نحاول قد ما بنقدر حتى من خلال هاي الشواهد الكتابية راح تشوفوها بآخر هاي الحلقة. عاوزين كل شخص كتلميذ المسيح، كقائد، كراعي كنيسي، كخادم، وين الرب عم بيستخدمك، ما تحبط، ولكن بدنا تتشجع، تتشدد في كلام المسيح، في عمل الرب في حياتك، حتى نشوف ملكوت الله يمتد. الشواهد هاي بتقولنا انه نتقوى، نتشجع، وطبعا نلتصق اكثر بشجاعة في المسيح وتعاليمه والمبادئ الكتابية اللي رب بيعطينا اياها من خلال الانجيل، حتى نتعلم كيف الكنيسة تتضاعف، التلاميذ يتكاثروا ونأثر في مجتمعنا. وانا بحب الآية في فيليبي 4:13 اللي رح ننهي فيها هاي التعليم: أستطيع كل شيء في المسيح الذي يقويني. بدون المسيح ما بنقدر نأثر على المجتمع حوالينا.
So that concludes this particular section on discipleship, multiplication versus addition. Now we're going to really step into how do we get going? Okay, I get it. I want to multiply disciples. How do we do it? So that's our next section. So hang with us, keep going with us, because now we're going to step into the practical stuff.
طبعا بعد نهاية هذه الفقرة راح نوصل لهذه المرحلة حتى ناخذ الفقرة العملية بعد هذا التدريب من منطلق التضاعف والتكاثر للتلمذة. فاصبروا علينا، تشددوا، خذوا وقت في الصلاة، وبنشوفكم كمان شوي.